Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Paul Asa Allen. I am the youngest and the namesake son of evangelist A. Allen. Several years ago, people started telling me I needed to write a book about what it was like to grow up in the household of evangelist A. Allen. 3 years ago, I kind of took that serious and started working on it, and that's basically what I've done for the last 3 years. In that book, it introduces who my parents were, what their backgrounds were, where they came from, and goes into the story of what it was like to grow up in that household. I introduce it by using a little bit of information out of the book that my mother wrote, which was Daddy's Life Story, written at the time early in his ministry, called God's Man of Faith and Power. In that book, he talks extensively about his early life as a alcoholic. When he was a moonshiner, he ran moonshine whiskey. He made it, he sold it, ran a kind of a dance hall in a house where that was the main thing everybody drank, including him. He talks about every time he ever gave his testimony, he would talk about the fact that if he'd go somewhere during the day to get a cup of coffee, he'd have to just fill the cup half full because his hands would be shaking so bad that if he had it full, he'd spill it before he could get it to his mouth. So it is part of what his testimony was. He never ceased to emphasize that as part of his testimony. I don't know that he was proud of it, but he faced that reality very clearly in life, that is part of what made him who we are. And all of us on any given day of our life are a sum total of everything we've experienced from birth to now. And when that is part of your life, it is part of your life. I can honestly say that during my lifetime, I never saw any indication that he had ever had anything to drink while I was around or during my lifetime. But if that were to have happened, I know that he was the type of person that believed everybody could fall, and he believed strongly in redemption. His main emphasis throughout his life was getting souls saved. It was not the healing, it was not the prophetic things, it was being able to get people saved and into church. And once he got that done, then he felt like the other things would come in time. The healing, the faith, the speaking in tongues, everything else would come along at the right time in that person's life once you get them saved. And that's why in a lot of the sermons that were strong in salvation, it was not uncommon to have 8,000 to 10,000 people under the tent, and out of that 8,000 to 10,000 people, 85 to 90% would answer the altar call for salvation at the end of a service. And among the things that will be available here on this website is CDs that have those sermons on the CDs that you can order. They are totally targeted towards salvation. There are other things that are targeted towards faith, other things that are targeted towards healing. But the ones that are salvation-oriented sermons are targeted in that direction. And he believed and taught and preached for his entire life that salvation is the number one thing that you have to teach. And from there, all the other things will be added to you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added. And if that message was good 40 years ago, it is still just that solid today. And that's the one thing that everybody needs to be concentrating on, is that salvation is the number one thing that Jesus was here for. All the other things were extras.